Good morning, everyone. Happy United Nations Day. My name is Fiona Sandy. I'm the United Nations Country Coordination Officer for Grenada. There's one of me in each of the Eastern Caribbean countries. And it is my pleasure to welcome you here today. We have an official welcomer, and that's not me. But before we get to that point, I just want to say I think it's a great day for us to commemorate, for us to celebrate. We understand that United Nations really means international cooperation and collaboration, and the beauty of that, and that brings the peace and security that the world is looking for. And then, of course, we've now added sustainable development goals to that portfolio, helping to improve the livelihoods of countries globally, of peoples globally. So we will start with our flag presentation, and we invite the Grenada Cadet Corps to join us and bring the flags. We will go directly into the national anthem as soon as the flags are in position. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite Ms. Isa Miguen to lead us in the national anthem of Grenada. Thank you, Aitza. Please remain standing for the opening prayer, and then we will move to the welcome and overview by Mr. David Hopkin. Opening prayer.
Good morning to everyone. Could we reverence God this morning? Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you, God, for your goodness. We thank you, God, this morning for the breath of life. We thank you, God, for your presence this morning. Had it not been for you, God, we would not be here. And this morning, God, we give you thanks. Father, this morning we thank you for your protection, for bringing us here safely this morning. God, this morning we lift this session before you. We pray, oh God, for everything that would be done, everything that would be said. We pray for each and every one of us here this morning, God. You know us individually. You know our needs this morning. And Lord God, we just commit everything into your hands. We pray, God, for the coordinators. We pray, oh God, Lord, that the discussions here, oh God, would be for the upliftment of the UN, oh God, for the upliftment of the region, God, for the upliftment of this nation, our ministries and departments, oh God, and for ourselves on a whole. God, we just commit everything into your hands, and we come against everything that is not of you this morning. Have your way in this place this morning, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fiona Sandy, Chairperson and UN Country Coordination Officer for Grenada, United Nations Resident Coordinator's Office, Barbados, Ambassador Kennedy Roberts, Sustainable Development Goals Ambassador, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Expo Development and Trade, Dr. George, SG Consultant in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, senior administrative officers, senior public officers within our various ministries and departments, Government of Grenada. Distinguished guests, agencies, heads of agencies in Grenada, colleagues, friends, and those viewing online. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you to today's celebration of United Nations Day 2024. On this special occasion, we not only mark 79 years since the founding of the United Nations, but we also celebrate a significant milestone for our beloved country, Grenada. This year, we commemorate 50 years of Grenada's admission to the United Nations, following the adoption of Resolution ARS 3204 on September 17, 1974. Since joining the UN, Grenada has proudly upheld the values and principles of the global organization, contributing to peace, security, development, and promotion of human rights. Our journey over the past 5 decades reflects on our deep commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation, grounded in the belief that we are stronger when we work together towards common goals. Today, we take a moment to honor the accomplishments of our nation on the world stage and reflect on the ways the UN has been instrumental in shaping a more inclusive and sustainable future for all. From climate resilience to sustainable development, Grenada has consistently worked hand in hand with the global community to address the challenges of our time. As we celebrate this momentous occasion, let us reaffirm our commitment to the UN's mission of fostering peace, security, and human dignity for all. Let us also look forward to continuing our contributions to the global conversation, ensuring that small island states, developing states like Grenada, remain integral voices in shaping the future of our planet. Thank you for joining us today, and we wish everyone a meaningful and inspiring celebration. Together, we are building a better world. Happy United Nations Day, everyone. Secondly, I would like to give you an overview of today's session. It is divided in 3 parts. The first is our opening ceremony, which we have begun, which will follow by the segment SDGs Aligned. And we have committed to working towards the achievement of the SDGs, aligning our SDGs, the targets, indicators in our country, and to make life better for our citizens. We have a panel of 5 ministries. Senior planning officers will make presentations on their ministry's work program and the alignment to the Sustainable Development Goals. Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs, Ministry of National Security, Home Affairs, Public Administration, Information and Disaster Management, Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment and Renewable Energy. Following which, we're going to have remarks from the SDG Ambassador, ownership towards implementation of Agenda 2030 and SDGs. Dr. Kelvin George, SDG consultant, will make a presentation on his work thus far. And we'll end our session with that note in terms of the formal speaking. And the third part is interaction with agencies at our booths. We have, I think, a few agencies here. You get a chance to interact with them and see the work that they are doing in Grenada, as well as get information as to how you can participate in the work that they are doing and share that with your ministries. So basically, that's our overview for today. A very short program, and we hope that we have a very informative and successful one. Thank you very much.
So we have quite a few agencies here. We have some, because of course today is not a holiday for us, so people are still traveling and doing work. So who's not here is, but in Grenada, have people in Grenada, World Food Program, PAHO, WHO, UNESCO. But with us we have UNDP, Jeff Small Grants Program, UN Women, and I work, like I said, with the Resident Coordinator's Office, which is not a separate agency or entity. It is more of a facilitating mechanism that works together with the agencies and facilitates any sort of joint work with regard to development and operations that the agencies are doing, such as UND. Just a small change to the program. We will come back around with the poem, but we'll now. I'm not sure if we're ready for the UN Day message, or we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. We have with us our SDGs ambassador, Kennedy Roberts. So I'll bring him up to speak a little bit about the journey of the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, which is where the goals are placed. Agenda 2030 is a framework that the General Assembly agreed to, the UN General Assembly agreed to and launched in 2015. We have a timeline, tentatively, of 2030. And of course, we know that the Sustainable Development Goals was built on, my time, it was the Millennial Development Goals. But we came to a point when the deadline for the Millennial Development Goals ended. And we were looking to see how can we make these achievements of trying to reduce poverty, improve livelihoods, develop better primary healthcare systems. How can we make these things more sustainable? And of course, it came back to people and planet and how we keep people and planet sustainable. And so he's going to speak a little bit about the Sustainable Development Goals. During the session, or maybe right after the presentations, you may be able to visit the booths that we have. We have a lot of material for you. We have material for persons who are thinking of becoming consultants with the UN system. We have a guide for you. If you want to know a little bit about what the agencies are doing, they have some of the products that their projects and activities have really developed. So we have that. And of course, we have grantees and beneficiaries here as well who can tell you a little bit about the value of some of the programs and products that we've done in Grenada and are doing in Grenada. And one is with Vetiver Grass, which is under Jeff Small Grants, UNDP Jeff Small Grants. So we have two beneficiaries here, two grantees here, who will tell you a little bit about what they got, how they used it, and what was some of the outputs. So I invite Ambassador Roberts, please.
Thank you, Ms. Sandy. Good morning, everybody. Before I go into a little bit of the history and so on about the SDGs, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Roxy Hutchinson, was supposed to have given some remarks. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here with us, so she has asked me to say these remarks on her behalf. So before I do my little thing, I'm just going to give her remarks. Greetings to everyone here. Today marks a significant milestone in our nation's history as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Grenada's membership in the United Nations. 50 years ago, Grenada stepped onto the global stage, committing to the principles of peace, security, and development for all. As we reflect on these 5 decades, we take pride in Grenada's growth. We have evolved from modest beginnings into a vibrant, resilient country, earning respect and admiration from the global community. The United Nations have been a steadfast partner in this journey. Through its agencies and initiatives, the UN has provided vital support, helping us overcome challenges and achieve critical development milestones. Looking ahead, we must reaffirm our dedication to the principles enshrined in the UN Charter. Both at home and abroad, we must continue working towards a more peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable future. On this momentous occasion, we honor the sacrifices of those who paved the way and renew our commitment to the ideals of the United Nations. Together, we can build a healthier, brighter future for Grenada and generations to come. Thank you. So these were the remarks from Permanent Secretary Roxy Hutchinson. All right, later on in the program, I'll be looking at some specific issues relating to the Sustainable Development Goals. But as Ms. Sandy said, the SDGs time frame is 2015 to 2030. And we're now in 2024, meaning that we're more than halfway past the implementation date. So we call it Agenda 2030, meaning the achievement of the goals of the SDGs by 2030. Prior to the SDGs, from 2000 to 2015, we had the Millennium Development Goals, which were 8 goals that focus heavily on improving the health status predominantly of populations of the world. The MDGs, as it was called, focus a lot on the developing countries and trying to see how we can improve basic health indicators, basic social and economic indicators. However, as we got closer to 2015 and the evaluation of the MDGs were done, it was noticed that it did not really address a holistic development of people. And as a result, these 17 new goals are relevant to all countries of the world rather than developing countries. And it has a more intersectoral approach in terms of its implementation. The 17 goals and 169 targets that were established at the global level were supposed to be translated into local language, meaning that each country should see how these goals reflect in their national reality and develop their own local targets and projects that would help to implement these goals. At the regional level, CARICOM has been looking at the regional goals and targets, and the region as a whole have come up with their targets. However, at the Grenada level, our current reality is going to be explained a bit by Dr. George when he gives his presentation, because he looked at where we are in terms of the SDG implementation locally. And while several of you have been in the front line and doing work with regards to the SDGs, what we have noticed is that there was not a comprehensive monitoring mechanism and a planning component to really help us look at these 17 goals, look at them in an intersectoral way, and come up with our programs and projects that are aligned to these goals. So for example, when we prepare our annual budget, all programs and projects should be able to align what are the goals that relates to this program and a project. And in so doing, we're better able to target resources abroad to help us implement our programs. The world has reached a stage now where the multilateral financial institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, and so, they're realizing that they must work in a more united way to help countries achieve their sustainable development goals. So at the last United Nations General Assembly in September, these agencies came together and they were telling countries, pull together projects that reflect your needs for human development, because the whole theme is leaving no one behind. And when we say leaving no one behind, it means we have to know who you are to know if you're left behind. And what are the programs and projects are we going to implement to address them? So the big push now is to get information from your local communities. Projects and programs should not be developed by a consultant or somebody sitting in a ministry and writing up something for a theoretical exercise in the budget. They're suggesting that we go to communities, listen to people, hear their needs, hear their stories, understand what are the priority concerns. And within that context, when projects are developed and the agencies see the process that we go through, it is going to give us a greater chance of getting and mobilizing international resources. So we're at the stage now where Grenada has to look at the next few years to 2030. And in 2022, we did what is called a voluntary national review and kind of presented where we are. Dr. George has looked at several other components, and you will hear his presentation a little later on. But what we need now is a greater teamwork, greater synergy among our various partners. Our public sector should not be working alone. The role of the private sector, the non-governmental organizations, community organizations, village groups, sporting organizations, we have to get the theme, get the goals of the SDGs more in tune. A lot of people in Grenada still do not know about the SDGs. You will know of it because a lot of you work in the field. But when you go out there and I talk to school children or to others and you ask about the SDGs, it's not internalized in Grenada. So we have to do more education. We have to do more planning work. We have to work at the ministry level. We have to work in an intersectoral way to ensure that what we're doing, how we mobilize resources, will be in the best interest of leaving no one behind. Later on, I'm going to give a sort of, some of you know that I used to be a teacher, and public health is my field. And with a lot of talk about the health system right now, and certain plans that are taking place, I'm going to do a little presentation that looks at how we can implement the SDGs more structurally, more organized. And I did a presentation to the Sustainable Development Council a few months ago and promoted a theoretical model that I believe that Grenada can look at in terms of moving forward and generating. So I'll deal with that at the second part, but for now, I'll leave it for here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Roberts. So, of course, the ambassador would have conveyed the message from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a few details surrounding that. And we move now right into the United Nations Day message from the UN Resident Coordinator for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean.
Dear friends, a very happy United Nations Day. United Nations Day is a day to celebrate and to support a vision of an inclusive, networked, and effective multilateral system to better respond and deliver for people and planet, including across the Caribbean, towards a world of peace, sustainable development, and human rights for all, a world that is stronger together. With this, I would like to express my gratitude for the support and the partnership extended to the United Nations by governments and communities across the Eastern Caribbean. This is especially important at this moment in time when we require diplomacy to steer us towards a more peaceful, prosperous, and just future. The world and the Eastern Caribbean are facing a multitude of interrelated challenges: climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, coupled with issues of access for financing for development. We all feel the enormity of responsibility to support citizens and communities, to leave no one behind. Future generations depend on the choices we make or fail to make today, and our willingness to come together around a commitment to collective problem solving and action. The United Nations across the Eastern Caribbean is bigger than the sum of its parts. 23 United Nations agencies, funds, and programs are working hand in hand with all governments in the region to deliver joint results against government priorities in support of people, families, and communities. On this United Nations Day, let us commit with hope and determination to build a better world. Please join us in celebrations on this United Nations Day.
So, thank you. So Simon is our new UN resident coordinator who took up his office on 1st of June. And then he was launched immediately into Hurricane Beryl and the response efforts. So he barely had time to present his credentials. He kind of did it simultaneously because he hadn't done the process before. So he had to land to do that and get to work. We already had WFP on the ground. We had the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs came in soon after, landed in Carriacou, set up their tents and their cots next to the Emergency Operating Center up there. And yeah, so he just had to roll with the punches. Now, as he mentioned, it's 23 agencies working in this region. So what you see here is really just a fraction of the agencies that work in this region. These are just the agencies that are in country. But we have a lot of other agencies that's working remotely from Barbados, which is our hub, and some of them are based in St. Vincent, St. Lucian, so they're covering Grenada as well. So it's 23 agencies. They're working in over 90 interventions in country. Every year, another one of my responsibilities, because governments have come to us and said, we need greater transparency and accountability in the work of the United Nations, and this is one of my roles. So every year, I give an overview of the activities that are taking place in country, where we're at. We usually do it around December. It's called a review of the country implementation plan. This time we'll do it in January because it's compromise. It is better for the country. We're in the middle of budget. It's better for the government. It's better for the UN agencies, which of course would like to finish a year and then give you the data. So January, around late January, we'll get back to you on that. We will be giving that. I will be giving you that overview. Now we have with us who I want to call a very special young lady. Her name is Sorana Mitchell, and Sorana is I want to say a diehard partner of the United Nations when it comes to speaking on disability inclusion, disability rights, human rights, and she's always with us. She's always in our consultations. So Sorana wanted to share a little something today on inclusion, and so I want to invite Sorana Mitchell to please take the mic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What if 14-year-old Vanessa from Willis in St. George didn't have to stay home for a few days every month because there was no money to buy sanitary napkins? Her education would not be interrupted, a light would be shone on gender equality and, moreover, poverty. What if 37-year-old farmer Anthony from River Sally in St. Patrick wasn't holding his head in his hands, staring at the destruction of his home and farm after Hurricane Beryl barreled through on July 1? He's heard there'll be more destructive hurricanes because of climate change, making him wonder if he could face these yearly upheavals. How would he provide for his family? Oh, Anthony cannot sleep. The worries about the future are negatively affecting his blood pressure, his blood sugar, his mental health. What if the frustrations of 45-year-old fisherman Augustine from Carriacou were heard when he catches tuna filled with plastic bags and other trash we on land throw into drains, and it gets washed out into the sea? Augustine knows, but we don't see how our actions on land affect life in the sea. What if 22-year-old Ananda from Tebaid, St. David, who is deaf, does not feel left out? That if she attends a function like this one, she's accounted for with a sign language interpreter. In so doing, fostering inclusion. What if we didn't use Earth as a dump, but like our treasured home? What if we saw how our lives are tied to each other, to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals put forward for a shared future? What if? But it is. Let's make use of the SDGs to build a brighter future. The time is now. Let's act now.
Thank you, Sarana. As I remember little areas, bits and pieces, I'm going to mention it in between, and I'm glad that she ended that poetry, that spoken word on Act Now. Part of some of the work that we've been doing is to involve the private sector more in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so last year we engaged 2 corporations, businesses that supported us in having a youth disability panel discussion, and also that supported us in being able to reach out to schools for special education in our art and essay competition with schools, with the help of the Ministry of Education. And it started in primary. Of course, we judged according to category. Started in primary, and then we went up to, I think it was the age of 16. So again, I want to thank the Ministry of Education for collaborating with us on that, and we want to thank the private sector thus far for collaborating with us to bring the news of acting now for the goals. I'm going to come back to a point in the program that I had left a minute ago. Now, the UN Resident Coordinator's Office has a youth advisory group with representation from Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. In Grenada, our youth advisory group representatives are Zinzi Noel and Derica Samuel. We were fortunate. We had 2 persons who went up for the interview. They were both very strong. I was not part of the interview. I said I don't know how I would be able to pick, so leave me out of the interview. So it was persons from St. Lucia, persons from UNICEF, and so on. And the resident coordinator at the time, Mr. Didier Tribuk, said, well, let's not choose, let's give Grenada two representatives. So I have with us Ms. Derica Samuel, who also wanted to be a part of the program, and we invited and we welcomed her to be a part of the program today. Derica wanted to do, let me not tell you what it's about. You'll get what it's about. Please, Derica, come on up.
Hello everyone, good morning. Happy UN Day. Today I'm just going to do a very short poem on the strength in inclusion. We stand together, side by side. In every space, we won't divide. Disability doesn't close the door. Inclusion opens so much more. In schools, at work, in every space, inclusion builds a stronger space. Our differences don't hold us back. Together, with strength, we do not lack. With different paths, we all belong. Together we rise, together we are strong. Thank you very much. This poem just demonstrates the power of inclusion. And with inclusion, no matter our limitations, society, once we have an inclusive society, we can do all things, no matter our limitations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Derica. When you see me snapping, don't think that it's the bad manners. Sometimes in the world of persons with disabilities, persons who may not be able to clap, persons who may not be able to, use the different senses that we do the clapping, we do this for the clapping as well. So, now Derica, I asked if she wanted to moderate. She said, no, please. I said, well, next time, because of that poem, Derica, next time we'll either be co-hosting or you'll be moderating one of the programs. So just another round of applause for Derica, please. Thank you so much. So I believe we've come to the point of the closing remarks. I don't usually give remarks, so let me call it what it is, just a few words of thank you for all of you who have come here. We're going into the other segment, but I won't come back on. This is it for me. I want to say thank you so much to those of you who really took the time and are braving the heat. It is very hot to come here, and we'll see how best we can cut this program so that we can get the core and the substance of what it is that we need, and then persons can either walk around or go get some stronger air. You might be hearing that I am saying a lot about disability. So one of my focus areas in the resident coordinator's office is disability inclusion. My background, I've worked in the public sector. My background is in planning, but it's also been in the Ministry of Social Development. And so I have a passion for the area of inclusion. I have a passion for gender equality. I have a passion for addressing gender-based violence. And I understand that we cannot move forward as a people if we're talking about improvement and development and social development. We cannot move forward as a people if everybody is not included. So whatever we have to do to strengthen and improve that inclusion, we have to do it. I have my assistant here with me, Ms. Clement, and I just want to shout out Anya Clement, because this is Anya's. One of my concerns is that persons with disabilities they go through this system, a system that is not really tailored to them. So they have to struggle and fight a bit more than we do to make it, to get the subjects to read, to do whatever. I remember we had the panel discussion, and one of the persons on the disability panel discussion said, you know, if they would just improve the lighting in the terminal, I could find my way around better, because my sight is not it's not 20/20, and little things like that. So Anya is my assistant, my admin assistant for the resident coordinator's office in Grenada. And I said to Anya, well, you know, the building is not really suited yet. So I'll take you on and Anya said, I'm coming to office. Let's see how it goes. You know, but we have some work to do. The UN has some work to do. Everybody has a little bit to do. And it has to start with awareness. It has to start with sensitization. And in the United Nations Coordinator's Office, we have a disability inclusion strategy, just like we have a gender strategy, and we have to meet certain requirements. We have indicators that we have to meet as well. And I think this is probably one of the places that we need to start as a people, what we need to achieve, the indicators that measuring that we're achieving that, and how we can really be more inclusive in our education, in our workspace, our infrastructure, and so on, so that everyone can move forward. So really, I just wanted to share that little bit about disability. I know the Ministry of Social Development is working on a disability policy. And that, again, is something that is near and dear to me, and I hope that we can move that forward in as speedier process as possible, and start speaking a little bit more on the TV, on the radio, about persons with disabilities and how we can include them, and how just it is, how fair it is. Again, we also have a convention on the rights of persons with disabilities that quite a few countries have signed on to, including Grenada, and we're seeing how we can realize that in country as much as possible. Again, I want to say thanks to all of you. Thanks to the Cabinet Office, the Ministry of Cabinet Office, Cabinet Office, Office of the Prime Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and of course, we have a focal point for the UN Development System in government, who is Permanent Secretary Marina Jessamy. And I tell you, she does not stop. She does not stop. A lot of times when we have meetings, they are unplanned. And she just says, have a seat. What do you need? What's happening? I start chatting and she starts typing messages, WhatsApp messages and emails right away, and sends them off right away. So she's been very effective as well. So thanks to the government for this partnership and for this event today. And please feel free to join any one of us after. Our Food and Agriculture Organization joined us, so we also have that. And of course, you know, they were a big part of the World Food Day program. We also have other beneficiaries, including Elizabeth Chappell of the Drug Control Secretariat. And that's part of the Carry Secure program under UNDP, which deals a lot with data. How you gather data, and in particular with regard to youth involved in crime and so on. Thank you again. I'll hand over to Mr. Hopkin as we go to the next segment.
Leading us through the opening ceremony and bringing that part of our celebration today to an end. So we'll move into the second part, which is the 3 minutes presentation of the various ministries, and they will get the chance to go over to this table to set up their computers. Those who have, it was not a must to do presentations, PowerPoint, but if you have it, you can go to this table so we can get it sorted out. In the meantime, those persons are viewing online, and they find it very interesting, and they are getting a chance to see the SDGs being presented. Now, Fiona spoke about just a few of them, but the SDGs are much more than the inclusion aspect of it. So we don't want to just zero in on one, but focus on all of them, that if we achieve all of them, life will be so much better for us in Grenada and the world, all right? In the meantime, my team from the Cabinet Office will assist you with what on your tables, and you can refresh yourself in the meantime. So we'll have the first presentation by the Ministry of Education. Twain, could you help? Okay, we're going to begin, and we have the first presentation by Ms. Gillian Thomas, Planning Officer in the Ministry of Education. Let's give a good welcome, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so I'm presenting for the Ministry of Education, and they said 3 minutes, so we're just giving a brief overview of what we have accomplished so far and the ongoing work that we are doing in alignment, of course, with the SDGs. Grenada's commitment to sustainable development, Goal 4. Grenada's education policies focus on inclusivity, accessibility, and quality at all levels, from primary to tertiary education. And the ministry's continuous efforts to align these programs with the SDGs reflects a national commitment to sustainable development through education. At the Ministry of Education, we have 5 priority areas, and these areas are education financing, curriculum reform, ICT, TVET, and youth entrepreneurship. So once we focus on those areas, they will be, of course, aligned to the SDGs. So you would see them popping up in every area. Our first target, target 4.1, speaks to free, equitable, and quality education. And to achieve that target, we have 3 main points. Firstly, the free tuition program 2023, the removal of registration fees at pre-primary, primary, and secondary levels, alleviating financial burdens on families, and of course, subvention for the different schools, which would assist with operating costs. This subvention comes from the government of Grenada. Target 4.2 addresses access to quality early childhood development, and there the focus is on our preschools. There's mandatory entry at age 5 at 63 public centers, of course, financed by the government of Grenada. Currently, we have ongoing refurbishment of early childhood spaces to meet international standards, and that is mainly through the PEARL program. There is also the ECE policy is being reviewed, and of course, recommendations are being made to bring it up to standards by 2025. Intersectorial strategy in progress to coordinate ECE services. Targets 4.3 and 4.4 speaks to the technical and vocational education and of course ICT. So again, the national TVET policy is aligned to those targets. Strategy for enhancement of the TVET, strengthening our HRD unit, TVET expansion at primary level, increase in the age for compulsory school up to 18 years, and projected for 2025, centers of excellence for vocational training. So a heavy focus on TVET and vocational training on the whole. Target 4.5 speaks to elimination of all discrimination in education. And currently we have ongoing review of policies and legislative frameworks to cater to all groups. And that was beautifully put by, I think, what's her name? The young lady's name, Derica, talking about inclusivity. Target 4.6, literacy and numeracy. And in progress, we have the development of the OHPC, that's the Online Harmonized Primary Curriculum. And it's a regional initiative funded through OECS PEARL with a heavy focus on math and English. The procurement of 3 literacy software to assist in early grade reading, 2024. And upcoming, we are preparing for a math symposium that would try to improve our pass rate and our general performance in the area of mathematics in both CPA and CSEC, yes. Target 4.7 speaks to sustainable development. The ministry is working to define the ideal Grenadian citizen, so that education and training can be aligned and our young persons can be more readily equipped to be on the workforce. We have also secured a systems transformation grant, and this grant would allow us to enhance our curriculum and assessment in the lower secondary schools. Also, we consider the whole, not just academics. Target 4.A speaks to inclusive education facilities. Inclusive education facilities, and here we're looking at especially the SEN unit. 2023, we are again under the PEARL program, providing assistive learning devices to these different schools, so no child will be left behind. Constructing and rehabilitating our preschools, designing, these designs include accessibility features, so everybody can have access to the school buildings. The SCN unit also they're embarking on some outreach program to create awareness. So they're engaging the parents through PTA meetings, through GIS programs, to make everybody aware of what is happening in our schools. The system to assist with screening and early identification is also an ongoing initiative. 4B speaks of scholarships as well as our ICT in our schools. So we have expansion of schools with access to e-testing for high-stakes exam. We had in both primary and secondary schools, we had 20 of the 56 primary schools doing their CPA on their devices. And in the public secondary schools, we had for all of the multiple choice exams, the use of devices. All of the multiple choice exams except math and English because of the numbers. In progress, we have the coding, the pilot program is extended to now 17 schools with the hope of including the next 4 secondary schools with the launch of the RSC Tech Club, so the students are involved in robotics. There is also the development of learning management system for teacher and student use, and also ongoing the development of a national scholarship strategy, which will include strategy for awarding scholarship programs, and our focus is, of course, and it's aligned to global advancements. Finally, 4C speaks to qualification of teachers and, of course, teacher training. And we are in the progress of developing a PD strategy for education, a professional development strategy. We have ongoing capacity building for school leaders and teachers, and access to teacher education program, which is paid for through the government, of course, through the free tuition program. So remember, all our efforts reflect a national commitment to sustainable development through education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thomas, for your presentation, showing the alignment with the targets and indicators for SDG 4. And now I would like to invite National Security to do their presentation. It would not be a PowerPoint presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay. Good morning. Okay, I think we are here. Special good morning to everyone. As I said, I did not have a PowerPoint presentation given the time, but of course, the management. I must say, given the time, it was difficult to dialogue with public administration, so I must apologize for that drawback. Now, the Ministry of National Security has aligned all of its strategic priorities to the NSDP and, of course, to the SDGs. We are aligned to the SDGs goal number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Specifically, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. We at the Ministry of National Security, given those alignment, we have focused on 2 areas. Firstly, strengthen the national security strategic framework, and secondly, redefine our business processes to align to the ministry's mandate and, of course, to provide better services to our citizens. In relationship to the first aspect, which speaks to strengthening our national security framework, we at the Ministry of National Security, most persons, when they hear national security, they think of the RGPF. But RGPF is just one aspect of national security that speaks to law enforcement. So in order to create a comprehensive framework that includes all players, the ministry have decided to establish a National Security Council. That council would comprise of all the major players within the national security sector to provide the necessary advice and of course, strategic direction for the national security infrastructure and apparatus. Presently, we have established a National Steering Committee to establish that council. The reason being, given the comprehensive nature that and the mandate of the council, we have established a steering committee comprising, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. That committee, the aim of that committee is to develop the legislative and policy framework to guide the council. Presently, we are at the final stage of identifying a consultant who will be charged with the responsibility of developing the legislative and policy framework. Now, the main goal of that council, as many of you know, we had COVID, and COVID was a national security issue. Although it was enshrined within Ministry of Health, it requires the contribution of all players. And given needed that overarching body to really drive national issues. Now, many may say there is an informal agreement among many of the national security organizations, such as RGPF, FIU, Customs, etc. But to formalize that arrangement, a decision was made to develop the National Security Council. Now, that council would guide the ministry's operation, and the first mandate of that council is to develop a national security strategy. As many of you know, we don't have one. So that is the main objective. The first of that council is to develop a national security strategy and policy. Now, given that goal, we have aligned it to, one, given the council, they would assist in achieving target 16.6, develop effective, accountable, and transparent institutions at all levels, and being that within the national security sector. Of course, many of the initiatives and strategies also would be aimed at SDG 16.1, significantly reducing all forms of violence and related deaths rates everywhere. And of course, SDG 16.1.4, proportion of the population that feels safe walking alone around the area that they live. As you know, national security, given the comprehensive nature, we believe that the development of that council, the establishment of that council, will enable us to provide the necessary interministerial coordination, as well as development of strategies that would target many of the issues that we are having. Our second focus, as I indicated, was redefining our business processes. And I must highlight the role that the Carry Secure project has played in that area. In 2018, Carry Secure 1.0 was launched. And the aim of that program was to develop an integrated information system that would allow stakeholders within the national security sector to develop, to collate data, share data among their counterparts so that effective policies and strategies can be developed. I must say, given the COVID epidemic, it became, the program had to be reduced only to the RGPF. But to date, the RGPF have implemented the PREMIS system, which is a Police Records Management Information System. That systems allow all police stations to implement their data, computerize their data. As many of you know, when you go to the police stations, you always see these big books. The aim of that system to emulate 14 of those books and to digitalize that process. And that process would allow the police to identify hotspots and, of course, to filter the information to the relevant stakeholders so that the relevant policies and strategies can be developed to address these issues. For example, if there is a situation at a certain village, I'm just going to say my village, maybe violence involving a lot of youths, they would be able to channel those data to the Ministry of Youth so that they can see the data and develop relevant programs to address some of these strategies. Within the ministry as well, we are undergoing a comprehensive ICT restructuring, and that, of course, includes digitalizing all of our processes to make our processes easier and more accessible to the public. To date, we have completed one of our processes, and we are presently at the pilot stage. And secondly, I want to highlight also CariSecure 2.0. They are here to assist us in integrating all players within the national security sector. They have provided only for the police in CariSecure 1.0, and they are here to provide support for CariSecure in CariSecure 2.0. I must highlight our country coordinator, Ms. Jessie Cumberbatch. She has been instrumental in ensuring that the other agencies, Her Majesty's Prisons, Social Development, Probation Unit, and all the relevant players, to get them digitalized online so that they can share data among themselves and, of course, collaborate in addressing a number of our issues that we face within the sector. National security is comprehensive. We have 5 priority areas which we are focused on based on our last corporate plan, which ends next year. And of course, we are on target to ensuring the implementation of such, and given those implementation, we will be able to address SDG number 16. 1, creating a safe and peaceful society, and 2, strengthening our institutional arrangements. And of course, the CariSecure 2.0 project is critical in providing that interministerial coordination, as well as providing the necessary framework which the Council will implement to ensure that the coordination is a reality. And that Council, I must say, will be chaired by the Prime Minister as Minister for National Security. Thank you.
So that was Ms. Petal Rush, the Senior Planning Officer in the Ministry of National Security, Home Affairs, Public Administration, Department Information and Disaster Management. Thank you. Let's give her another clap, as well as Ms. Thomas. I think that was one of her first presentation, being a planning officer in the Ministry of Education. Now, those of you viewing online, the achievement of the SDGs is not just for government to do, it's for all of us. So no matter how small you are in your own families, get yourself acquainted with the SDGs and you do your little bit, and you will achieve something for us, for yourself and for Grenada. Our students, the private sector, you can get involved as well in achieving the targets and so on from the SDGs. So it's not just for government to do, it's for all of us to get involved and achieve the goals of the Agenda 2030. I'm happy to present on our next presenter from Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment and Renewable Energy, Ms. Smith. She would make her presentation now. Let's welcome her, please.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Renee Smith from the Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment and Renewable Energy. God. Can't see. Our work revolves around strengthening the nation's resilience to climate change while promoting sustainable development. Today, as we celebrate the United Nations Day, we are to be reminded of the importance of global cooperation in addressing the most pressing issues of our time, which is obviously climate change and sustainable development. Also, we as small island developing states are on the forefront of climate change. I would briefly summarize how our ministry aligned with SDG 6 7, 13, and 14, and also 15. The efforts, so under SDG 17, which is affordable and clean energy, these efforts are essential to Grenada for long-term visions and sustainable and resilient future. So our target for SDG 7 is to ensure that everyone have access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy for all. And this target is for 2030. Some of the initiatives that we have is the Energy Efficiency Program, where we create incentives for renewable energy adoption and retrofitting of public buildings with energy saving and LED lighting, and also incentive for the importation of renewable energy, the EV vehicles and PV panels. We have the legislative reform, the Electricity Supply Act that was set out in 2016. It has paved the way to liberalize the energy market and allowing independent power products and self-generator to participate. So this marks a significant shift towards a renewable generation. We also have the National Energy Policy that prioritizes the expansion of renewable energy source to reduce reliance on imported fossil fuel and enhance energy security. For the indicator for SDG 7, Grenada aimed to achieve 50% renewable energy by 2030. As of 2023, which was just last year, 15% of the nation's energy comes from renewable sources. In regards to SDG 13, climate action, so under SDG 13, which focuses on strengthening resilience to climate-related hazards, knowing that we're in the hurricane belt, our ministry's initiatives include the National Adaptation Plan, also known as the NAP. It guides resilience efforts across sectors such as agriculture, water resources, and coastal protection and management. We also have the Enhanced Direct Access Project that was funded by the Green Climate Fund. This project provides financing for climate-related activities, and it strengthens water source management, climate infrastructure. Just yesterday, this week, a part of the EDA project, we handed over a community development center and emergency shelter to the Marquis community as part of the Enhanced Direct Access project. And the indicator for SDG 13, these initiatives have improved resilience in coastal communities across the nation. And also the Climate Resilience Act that was established in 2021 institutionalized climate adaptation measures across all sectors. So climate risk assessments are now embedded in national planning and budgeting processes. For SDG 14, which is life below water, our goal for SDG 14 is to prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution by 2025. Some of our key initiatives were the 2019 ban on single-use plastic and styrofoam to reduce marine pollution, and the Marine Litter Act planned, which assisted in transforming beaches and pretty much cleaning them up. The indicator, so there has been 30% reduction in plastic pollution on our major beaches. We also have the Blue Economy Initiative, which is not directly under the Ministry of Climate Resilience, but the Blue Economy Initiative also promotes the sustainable use of our oceans, resources, and economic growth. For SDG 15, which is Life on Land, it emphasized the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of both marine and terrestrial ecosystems. Our ministry's initiative include the nationally determined contributions, also the NDC's action plan, which commits Grenada to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 40% by 2030. Efforts to increase the coverage of protected areas that has also been established, whether it's marine protected areas or terrestrial or wetland ecosystems. Our ministry is tracking progress through NDC reports, detail emission reduction and adaptation outcomes. So our reports should be submitted at the end of this year. In regards to resource mobilization, the Environmental Division of our ministry has successfully secured $3.1 million that goes towards biodiversity and ecosystem protection, capacity building, and on-the-ground work. The Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment, and Renewable Energy remains committed to advancing the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in climate resilience, renewable energy, and environmental conservation. Our initiatives, from reducing greenhouse gas emissions to promoting renewable energy and enhancing climate adaptations, are essential steps towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and also securing a future for Grenada. Note that all the SDGs are interconnected and you can't have one without the other, so they're just as important as all the others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith, for that presentation, looking at the whole issue of climate resilience. Just to get you involved a bit, I know Fiona has a number of items to give away to you today, but I'm going to ask you a question, and let me see who would. You don't have to fight to get afterwards. You'll get it because you answered the question or are able to tell us. I would put the SDGs in 3 categories: the environment, social, and governance. Can somebody list to me at least 5 of the goals? They're all in front of me, front here, that relates to the environment. And we have a mic, and you can just state which ones that relates to the environment. And Ms. Smith just spoke a lot about it, so it should be fresh in your head. Keisha, you want to take the mic and bring it to the person who would like to. 5 of those goals that relates to the environment. Okay, we have one person here, Keisha. And you may want to state your name. And you may want to stand as well.
Deborah Bavigims. And the 5 SDGs, 6, 7, 13, 14, and 15.
Correct. Let's give her a round of applause. So don't stop yet. Don't stop. Give her back the mic. So tell us, what is number 6?
Number 6 relates to climate, to clean water and sanitation.
Yeah. 7.
7 relates to the affordable and clean energy.
All right. Next one.
13 relates to climate action. 14 relates to life below water. And 15, life on land.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause, and Ms. Sandy will give her her token. The next one, can I have 5 related to the social aspect of life? 5 of those goals related to the social aspect of life. Yes, Ms. Sylvester.
Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. You have number 1, no poverty. Number 2, 0 hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being. Number 4, quality education. And number 5, gender equality.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. And you'll get your token from Ms. Sandy. And the final section is governance. Which of the 5 goals relate to governance? So I think the cadets will want to make a try. You can try. No, just, I see you trying your best. 2 of you can stand together to do it. Where's the microphone? You just name, and we're going to help you. Remember, the SDGs are not just for government to work towards, but all of us have a responsibility. So let's go. Use the mic.
9, 10, 11.
9, 10,
11, 16, and which one? 17, sir.
Okay, 9, 10, 11, 16, and 17. Ms. Smith made a statement earlier on at the end of her presentation that all the SDGs are connected, which is very true. The only one that is a little off from the governance is number 10. Number 10 says, reduce inequalities. But it's not that it's far away from it, right? It's something that you want when you govern in your administrations, in your groups, in your family, and so on. But you did very well with 4 out of the 5. Excellent work. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. So we're not ended yet, so let's name them. I want you to call the names for me. The first one, what is it? You said number what?
Number 9.
Number 9. What is number 9?
I can't see it.
Sorry. Okay, so I'll help you. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. All right. Next one.
Sustainable cities and communities.
All right, that's 11.
Responsible consumption and production.
Number 12.
Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Partnership for the goals.
Excellent. Let's give them a clap again. And it's the fitting time, as they receive their tokens, to invite the ambassador for the Sustainable Development Goals in Grenada, Mr. Kennedy Roberts, to make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This little presentation I thought would be helpful in terms of addressing the issue of ownership of the SDGs and ownership of the Agenda 2030. When we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, I gave the brief introduction early on, but in 2023, September 2023, the United Nations had the summit of the SDG Summit, where they did the midterm review of the SDGs and looked at the country's position in terms of its implementation. And especially as a result of COVID, it was generally agreed that most countries are running behind. So the mandate, a political declaration was issued, giving countries a mandate to speed up the efforts. Last September, the UN had the Summit of the Future, and that summit looked again at the progress made with the implementation of the SDGs, but focused heavily on, of course, the youth, because if you're talking about the future, and the whole role of information technology and artificial intelligence in particular. Countries were now given this mandate to implement what is called a Pact for the Future. So this pact that all the countries have recently agreed at the United Nations looks at really bringing these goals to the country level in a much more effective way. I was glad to hear the presentations by the ministries and where they're at. And I know that the goals are interrelated, and we have to have the regular discussion, the regular dialogue to plan and reflect how these goals are included in all our plans. And as rightly say, it's not just about the public sector, but the private sector, NGOs, everybody contributes at the household level. You contribute to the achievement of the goals. In 2022, Grenada did their national review, and we have realized in the Grenada context that there's a lot of work to be done. Brother George is going to get into some of the specifics. Of course, the UN website has a lot of details on the SDGs, so I would suggest that you take a little time to look at the SDG website and really internalize it and see what you're doing and how you can even do a bit more. The goal of the SDGs is to improve the human development and leave no one behind. And in order to do that, countries need to have strong social protection programs. We talk a lot about inclusion. Inclusion really means involving people in the planning, decision-making of things that relate to the governance of the country and the implementation of the SDGs in particular. Our social security institution is the NIS. But the role of social security, especially in a small island development state, has a lot more to do than what our NIS is doing. And I think the time is right for us to really do an evaluation of NIS and do an evaluation of social security protection generally to see how we can become a bit more efficient in addressing social security needs, which are from birth to death. One of the things that we've been talking about for decades, and I believe that it should be easy to do, and there have been several projects over the years working towards it, is really having a unique identifier number or social security number to really identify who we are. If we're talking about a national health insurance program, we need to have information on people. We need to have it documented. How do we do it? In Grenada now, births and deaths collect the information, but what do they do with it? We have the Ministry of Finance would collect information on driver's license and people who have. So if you're born in Grenada and you didn't work in the formal sector, you ain't get an NIS card. You decide you ain't voting, you ain't want to voter ID card. You never learn to drive, you never have a driver's license. You never travel, you never have a passport. What does that mean? You're living out there without any documentation of who you are. The amount of people that we identify over time who don't have a birth paper, we need to resolve that. And we need to move towards looking at NIS as our social security institution to really address this issue of a unique identifier, because it is going to help us help the Ministry of Education in terms of who is in the daycare center, preschool, primary school, and throughout their education. We will be able to deal with our primary healthcare program and have data in a much more efficient way. We can look at unemployment and see the gaps in terms of training and how we should address it. So we need to move fast in terms of improving the data on our population to help us with planning and help us to implement some of the programs that are being addressed now. Another area that we have to address is our role in our building relationships internationally. Now, the SDGs is a global initiative. If you do not interact with the UN, if you do not interact with the UN agencies, if you do not interact with the wider world who are providing resources to implement these programs, we would not be able to benefit or maximize our benefit. What we have to do is not just attend UN meetings and this meeting and that meeting, but what I'm realizing is that a lot of the work is done months before, and early planning and preparation to attend our international meetings is critical to us really getting the benefit of it. So we need to strengthen our relationship with our international organizations and make sure that we participate, because these days everything is online. So it is not difficult. And the World Health Organization, UNICEF, all these agencies, they put out information asking you to volunteer to participate in some of these background things. We need to be more in tune with what is happening and do it. Now at the ground level, at the country level, how can we really build ownership? And while we want the communities to be involved, we want to do more in schools, we want to improve the health system, it has to be done within some sort of a model, some sort of structure. For 20 plus years, I taught health policy, health economics, health management, and health systems is an integral part of my psyche. We have to take a systems thinking approach. A system thinking approach is a broad understanding of the big picture and see how the different sectors work in a harmonious way to create some sort of synergy. And that systems thinking is being promoted by most of these UN agencies. They're encouraging countries to work in a more harmonious way. So when we present on the different SDGs, we have to realize that they're all interrelated. And national security has to depend on educating the people about what's going on. It has to do with gender equality. It has to do with almost all of the goals. So we have to take a much more intersectoral systems thinking approach. When I did the presentation to the Sustainable Development Council, in addition to the systems thinking approach, we need to take what, again, and this is not my information that I coming up with new, it is what is based on the theory out there. The World Health Organization is promoting what is called a life cycle approach to human development, where we need to look at the different age groups in our population, the under 5, the 5 to 11, the adolescent, the young adult, the elderly, the very old, because every category of our population have specific needs. And if we look in a structured way at the different stages in our development, we can come up with programs all linked with the SDGs, all coordinated private, public sector, NGO, and really have a more harmonious approach to our human development and really leaving no one behind. So this life cycle approach that has been promoted by the WHO, taken into consideration a systems thinking perspective, can set that framework through which we can then plan. We have our National Sustainable Development Plan 2020 to 2035. We have the SDGs goals, we have the regional goals, we have for every sector we have different goals, everybody mentioned theirs, but we need to be more coordinated, we need to do it in a more harmonious way, and we need to document, we need to involve people and promote programs and projects that is based on research at the ground level, at the community level. So my final point is about teamwork, because no man is an island, we cannot do it alone. And we must put the structures in place to help us to get the most out of these SDGs. As we get closer to 2030, more and more forums are taking place to help us get the resources. In June next year, the world is having the Sustainable Financing for Development Conference, which they're saying it is not about pledges, it's about seeing how we get real resources now to come back to the country level. But to get it, you have to plan and work towards developing projects that is based on information from the ground, put within the context of the SDG, the context of your national plan, and in so doing, we have a better chance to generate resources and successfully implement the SDGs. So I look forward to working with everybody, and as Dr. George will promote in a little while, we have come up with a sort of framework for us to move forward, and I hope that we can get that done, and over the next few years, as we get closer to 2030, we can genuinely say that Grenada is leaving no one behind in terms of our human development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for Sustainable Development Goals in Grenada. And we have 17 goals, right? We have a number of targets. Anybody knows the number of targets we have? What a good way to celebrate UN Day, because the SDGs are at the heart of the United Nations effort to ensuring that we have an end to poverty, inequality, protect the planet, and to ensure that all people have access to health, justice, and prosperity. Question again, how many targets do we have? And may I extend to how many indicators? We can have another gift for that person. How many targets do we have? Yes, Ms. Smith? 169 targets. Everybody agree to that? Yes, let's give Ms. Smith a clap. Well done. And how many indicators we have? How many indicators? 2. Okay. Do we have another answer? 247. That's it? You sure? Okay, 247 is it. Let's give our answer a round of applause. Yeah. So Dr. George has been working on a bit of consultancy from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in relation to the implementation or work towards the achievement of the goals. And he will just give you an overview of what he has been doing, and that will bring us to the end of our session here today.
Good morning. I'm commencing based on protocol already established. Brother Kennedy, I want to thank you for your presentation that actually highlighted a number of the areas that were actually researched and the findings that were gathered thus far. I want to say special good morning to everyone that is here. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning again. So today's presentation looks at the SDGs. And we take a hard look, I actually took a hard look at the SDGs and review the existing mechanism that is there and see exactly where there are gaps in what the systems that were established by the different reporting mechanism, and come up with an approach, an approach that hopefully can coordinate all the different findings that were presented this morning. And those things, once it can coordinate it, we're going to look both qualitatively and quantitatively. And once that is ascertained, then we can put it into a framework that can create the alignment between the National Sustainable Development Goals and plans, the Sustainable Development Goals, also the medium-term action plan, the MTAP, and see exactly how it is aligned with the national budget. So we're going to look at that in a nutshell And we're going to go through what the findings are and also what is a proposed mechanism that will bring everything together. I was quite excited about hearing the different ministries present what is happening within the ministry as it relates to the SDGs. Again, I'm also pleased to know that what was stated in terms of the interconnectivity between the different SDGs, from 1 to 17. If you achieve one, it can lead to the achievement of several others. So there is a coordinated approach already existing. What is required now is to have something that it is a little bit more cohesive and integrated throughout the ministry. Establishing something like a secretariat where all the information can be gathered, harnessed, and we'll be able to plan better because we will be able to identify the different gaps that are currently within the system that exists. One of the main questions is, where are we as it relates to SDGs? Are we 50% closer? Are we 25% closer? Are we just 20% closer to the attainment of the 17 SDGs that are here? If I ask that question, I guarantee that we wouldn't be able to ascertain exactly where we are. We will say we're achieving stuff along the way, but to say how close are we to attain Agenda 2030, I think that will be a challenge for us all to identify and ascertain. Am I correct? Am I correct? Come on, man, it's real. Yeah, it's real. I mean, we can say that we achieved this, we have that program is undergoing, that program was completed. I heard Ms. Thomas stated a number of activities that was completed thus far. But the question is, are we certain what percentile that represent in terms of attaining Agenda 2030? And I think that's the question that is here in my mind, and the consultancy look at that for us to be able to develop a framework that will better be able to monitor and track the activities and the attainments, and also look from a both qualitative and quantitative perspective to see what is the financial implication for each of the initiative that is undertaken by the government. Okay? So it's one thing to spend money and to invest, and to actually invest in different types of intervention. The question is, how is that investment translated into the attainment of a particular objective or goal? And I think that's the crux of the matter right now. A lot, I mean, for years, since 2015, investments were done in the area of SDG attainment. Are we closer to the attainment of the 2030 agenda? And if so, how close are we? I think these are the questions that the consultancy look into, and coming up with a framework that can track what is happening, and hopefully we can digitalize the system, we can have a more integrated approach to the SDG monitoring, and we'll be able to attain and be able to say categorically with a high level of certainty or confidence that we are 20%, we are 30%, we are 40% closer to the attainment of the 2030 agenda. Next. So what was done, it was premised, the consultancy was premised on the VNR 2022 review. That VNR review, which looked at Grenada, actually identified a number of areas and recommended the following. One, for Grenada to be able to be in a better position to ascertain where we are, we need, one, a coordinated mechanism. We need to coordinate the different activities. We heard the Ministry of Education, we heard the Ministry of Climate, but who is responsible for putting it together? Who is responsible for tracking the activities? Who is responsible? And I think this is where that the VNR report actually recommended that, because they realized there is a current gap in the system. So coordinating the activities of data, you're looking at that, formalizing a coordinated mechanism, implementing the result monitoring framework. And I think that, again, will be incorporated within the mechanism. Yeah, integrating those pillars. I heard Mr. Hopkins mention the three critical pillars, which we see as pillars. and he talked about governance, social, and environmental. So this is what the questions were grounded upon a while ago. But all those different pillars have an economic impact, because we need to ascertain what is the economic impact of those investments and the return of those investments to the people of Grenada, and how are they linked to the different SDGs. Advocating, back one, go back please, come forward, right. Advocating for adequate and sustainable development financing. Accessing financing is quite difficult. And I think one of the challenges within small island developing states like Grenada is because we are most times debt strapped. Our attractiveness, our ability to attain or to attract financing can be a challenge. And although you may hear a lot of the international agencies state that, oh, we have X amount of dollars that is available, the question that I normally ask is it accessible? And if it is accessible, what is required to make it happen, or to access the financing? And these are the questions that will ground the different strategies and policies that will allow us to be able to develop the interventions in order to attain the SDGs. Continuous engagement with stakeholders. I heard that the ambassador stated a while ago a bottom-up approach to sustainable development activities and strategies. That is necessary. So the VNR actually look at those things. We do not want the top-down approach only, but we also want the youths to speak out. We want the vulnerable to speak out. We want those that are considered based on society's ranking unfortunate. Those individuals to speak out. And when they speak out, we will take what they're saying based on the circumstances and incorporate that with different intervention, and the policy framework will guide it. Next, please. Also, the consultancy was based on the backdrop of the ECLAC 2023 recommendations. And there were strong recommendations that came out. Right? It looked at the SDG gaps within a Grenada context, and as the result, recommend the following. Grenada Sustainable Development Goals awareness. I mean, so many people within Grenada don't really understand, I don't know the Sustainable Development Goals. And a lot of the times they do things subconsciously, and it impacts the environment, it impacts society, impacts peace. It impacts the education, it impacts, national security. But are we really taking account of the actions that we take? And I think these are the things that we need to be aware of. What are we doing in our society? What are we doing daily that is impacting our society? Development of the mechanism, again, that was the responsibility of the consultancy, and creating an accurate synchronization to reduce the inability and to determine the progress of the SDG for the 2030 agenda. Next, please. The proposed monitoring system, which was basically my consultancy, is to come up with a proposed monitoring system. And this is what the monitoring system will look at. The Sustainable Development Baseline establishment will establish baseline, again, where we are now, as of now. Are we 20%, 30%, 40%? Right? Taking all the qualitative issues that were mentioned and quantifying them. Digitalizing, having a digital portal where all the information can be fed and it can be analyzed. Establishing SDG focal point within the ministries, within the private sector, within the public sector, within the CSOs, the NGOs. SDG budgeting. Currently, we are in the budget cycle. Just as you do sectorial budgeting and you can ascertain what is happening in the different sectors, the mechanism is also recommending that they do SDG budgeting. So for the same thing here must be aligned to the different sectorial area. So for example, let's say you're talking about zero poverty, that is not just within the context of only the social, but they're also looking at educational, they're looking at economical. What are the interventions that the administration is undertaking in order that there will be zero poverty. What is happening in that framework? Yeah, so this is what we're looking at. The SDG indicators, we want to ensure that there are indicators throughout, right? And the indicators must be as clear as possible that everyone understands. Yeah, and then the SDG analyst will take the information, analyze the information, and that information will feed into the policies, feed into the strategies, feed into the budget, and feed into the overall agenda and visioning of the government of Grenada. Next, please. This is a sample tracking mechanism, and if you look at the different SDGs, 17 of them, and this is back to the question that I asked earlier, where are we under the various SDGs? And we hope that the mechanism will be able to bring to fore a similar mechanism like this, where we can see, maybe an app can be developed, maybe we can see, everyone here has a phone. Wouldn't it be nice for the various ministries or planning offices to see where we are at any time with the different SDGs that you're looking at? I think everyone will like to see where we are. It's just something, because if you do not plan well, if you do not have data that ground your planning, then you're planning in vain. You will never know where you are and at what stage you are at and when you actually attain the objective. If I ask another question, what is the total investment sum for us to attain SDG 1, or SDG 2, or SDG 3? Do you have an idea? And these are the things that we need to be able to get closer to planning with data grounded in actual scientific planning methodologies. And not just stating we attain this, we attain that. But knowing that there is data to back it, both qualitatively and quantitatively. If we are unable to do that, then we really, as people say, we're spinning top in mud. Because we are not in a position to categorically state where we are and what we're trying to attain. Next, please. This is the digital tracking mechanism that is proposed. It has the modeling, that's the back end, and the back end will be demonstrated in the front end that was presented a while ago. Next. The reporting template for the different SDGs. Right? We're looking at how the reporting should be done, how we should be capturing the different information, and all the information should be interlinked. They all are speaking to each other, and it will come up in the front end, which is the first slide that I talk about the mechanism that shows you like the dashboard. Next. This is the alignment that is necessary. We heard about the different ministries speaking of what they have attained, but we're looking to see how they are aligned with the different policy document, the budget, and all the strategic goals that the government has established over the last 10 to 15 years, 10 years, around that. Next. Again, SDG tracking mechanism, you must incorporate all those different things, which are very critical. SDG integration management, throughout all the different ministries integrating, time management, quality management, all that, those things are necessary for us to be able to be in a position where we can determine where we are with the SDGs, how are we doing currently in 2024. We only have about 5.25 years to attain it. Maybe around 6 years maximum. Where are we? Are we doing what is necessary? And the institutionalization of the SDG, we talk about establishing a proper secretariat that is adequately staffed. This is what we're looking at. The framework, it will be housed within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You're going to have different individuals staffing the secretariat, and the secretariat will be responsible for monitoring, reporting, analyzing the data, and then coming up with policies, and then communicating that up to cabinet on the different responsibility, the external agencies, and they will then, so that's how the mechanism is being perceived and proposed. Next, please. The next steps that we have, establish a coordinating entity fully charged, fully staffed, right? Fully staffed secretariat, develop SDG coordinating policy. So the policy is not just doing each in ministry doing their own monitoring, but having a policy that governs that state exactly how the reporting should be done, when it should be done, when meetings should be held, partaking in all the different external meetings and assemblies, and having the ambassador working on the behalf of the government with engaging with the different international agencies. Again, that will lead to enabling financing, building relationship, which is, if you check out SDG 17 with partnership. We need the partnership in order for us to attain all the SDGs that are listed. National, I am saying we need a sustainable development goals national consultation. Everyone should be in the know, and as far as possible, people should be involved in ensuring the implementation of the SDG, the tracking of the SDG, and be able to see how the SDG are interlinked and are aligned with all the different policy documents that are being developed. Develop and deploy a communication strategy. Again, people need to be aware and informed, and develop a digital SDG tracking mechanism. I'm hoping that that can give birth as soon as possible, and it will be able to make the coordination, the integration of the information, and the analyzing of the information that will feed into policies, strategies, and interventions easier. Next, please. Thank you, and have a great one.
Thank you very much, Dr. George, for your work in this area of seeing where we are and how we can move forward with regards to the SDGs and so on. We have a question. The question has to do with which SDGs specifically mention persons with disabilities. And you'd get a token as well. Which of the SDGs specifically mention persons with disabilities? Yes? Your hand went up, right? Anybody? Okay, you want to stand and tell us? We have a microphone, yeah? Sorry. Disabilities, right? Specifically mention persons with disabilities.
Number 5.
Go ahead.
Gender equality.
Mm-hmm. Is that one of them? Ms. Sylvester.
I'm thinking it falls under more than one.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing it under good health and well-being. It's
Call the
under,
number for me, please.
That's number 3. It's also under gender equality. But we also want them to have quality education. We don't want them to be hungry. Right. So it goes under more than one.
Right. But my question is specifically mention persons with disabilities. We are aware, as we all established this morning, that all the SDGs are connected in some form, right? But these, I would say 4 SDGs specifically mention persons with disabilities.
So number 5 or number 3?
Number 10, okay. Number 5. So you're saying, Fiona, number 10? Well, the answers you gave me I'm not hearing it. Say again. Okay, so what Fiona is prompting is that these, I would say, 4 SDGs, particularly in their targets and indicators, mention persons with disabilities. All right? So I'm going to take the prize for myself because I'll tell you what they are. Number 4, on inclusive and equitable quality education. Number 8, sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth. Number 11 has to do with cities and human settlement, making it safe and sustainable and inclusive. And number 17 stresses that in order to strengthen the means of implementation, we need partnership, all right, on those issues. All right? That was a hard one, right? There are others that can link to persons with disabilities. But thanks for the effort in this regard, and we hope that we learn more about this. Now, I want to end by making 2 statements. One has to do with the National Sustainable Development Plan 2035, and Vision 75 is heavily or closely linked or aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals. And both the Sustainable Development Goals, the NSDP Medium-Term Action Plan, and the Vision 75 promote inclusive and sustainable growth, environmental protection, and improved quality of life for citizens. And there's some key alignment areas, for example, economic growth and decent work, which is aligned to SDG 8, quality education, as was mentioned by Ms. Thomas earlier on, climate action by Ms. Smith, good health and wellness, SDG 3, sustainable cities and communities, SDG 11. So we are quite clear as to the alignment the SDG has with our National Sustainable Development Plan and Vision 75. We are quite clear. What we need now is action to accelerate the achievement of those goals. And as I mentioned earlier on, it's not so much about the government doing it on its own, but each one of us has a responsibility to do our part in making life, the quality of life, better for all of us and our fellow citizens. So I would like to admonish that we don't just align the documents, our strategic plans and corporate plans, but also to ensure that the actions lends itself to achieving Agenda 2030. And finally, I would like to say thank you to all of you for coming out here today, for being present and participating so well in UN Day activities. So I'll say to you, Happy UN Day. Happy UN Day, right? To the management of the Youth Center, and particularly to Mr. Louison, I want to say thank you for affording us and helping us prepare for this. Let's give him a round of applause for that. The UN Country Coordination Officer, Ms. Fiona Sandy, and her team, and all the agencies who are here and who are not here, who worked to make this a reality, let's thank them as well. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, PS Roxy Hutchinson, PS Marina Jessamy, and Dr. George, together with Ambassador Kennedy Roberts, thank you very much for all your presentations and work in this regard. To our presenters today from Ministry of Education, Ms. Thomas, Ms. Petal Rush from National Security et al., and Ms. Smith from Climate Resilience. Thank you for sharing with us this morning. To the Cadet Corps for doing the flag presentation. Thank you for joining us today. I know it's midterm and you might like to be out enjoying the day, but you chose to come here this morning, or you accepted the invitation, all right, to be here. To Ms. Danielle Blackman for the prayers, and to the staff and the team at the Cabinet Office and Prime Minister's Ministry Policy Unit, I want to thank you for your support and everything that you've done this morning and before now. Thank you very much. Sarana Mitchell and Derika for your poems. Thank you. Let's give them a clap for that. And if I've missed anyone, it's not by choice, but maybe it's not in my memory at this point in time. But I want to say thank you. And to Mikey Live to end this, we say thank you for bringing this celebration today live online. Thank you. And do have a wonderful day, everybody. Remember, we have some of the booths here. You can partake in them and see some of the programs and activities that UN agencies are involved in Grenada. Happy UN Day, everybody, again. Thank you.